if you're a writer and a director who are like, hey, we're going to make a movie that's awful, but at the same time, great. Your first casting call is Nick Cage. Like that's what he does.
When you come to the end of the line with a buddy who is more than a brother and a little less than a wife, podcasting together is really the only way to say farewell. Welcome to the Captains and Coaches podcast, where we explore the art and science of leadership through the lens of athletics and beyond. I'm your host, Tex McQuilkin, and today we're joined by my longtime pal and partner in crime, Luke Summers. We've been through a lot together, and today we deep dive into the connections between child development and coaching, not just for youth sports, but across all ages. Luke brings a powerful insight in how understanding social and emotional development can transform our approach to leading both teenage athletes and adults in the workforce. Get ready for some fun stories and science that'll change how you think about coaching, leadership, and the profound impact of praising and raising kids. Party, bonus, stick around at the very end for a snippet from our side project podcast from 2019 that has never seen the light of day until now. Let's ride. We haven't been in this position sitting on a podcast.
5 years, 4 years.
4 years. We sat down and talked 10,000 foot view, which was an awesome episode. And I guess for the people that don't know, we go way back 2012 through this whole rigmarole that is CrossFit, the sport of fitness that led us together. And then 10 years
in
together.
The saddle?
10 years in the saddle together with Power Athlete, and another year with Kid Strong. And now we're here hanging out with some dogs at our feet that you may or may not hear on camera. But yeah, man, this is an amazing opportunity. I'm glad we're back together, and I'm sure some movie quotes will be dropped since Tom Cruise has made some amazing films since we were back in the saddle. And then maybe our podcast that we tried to start.
It's in the making.
It's in the making. There are some basement episodes somewhere. But welcome to the show.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, we went to different high schools together.
What do you want to talk about?
A lot. Well, I love to sit down and have conversations with you. So imagine we're in that realm. We're in a space where you get to push, you get to challenge, but then rather than just pushing me, it's let's walk through your thought process.
Sure.
So effectively, speak to us about your first leadership opportunity. And then here we are X amount of years later where you're still managing, leading, and in a position where, it's evolved. Because now you're in a position to lead a family.
There's an irony here, Tex, because if you knowing the audience you've talked about and stories you've shared, the first substantive leadership opportunity I can think of is framed right behind us.
I know, it's in the shot. So
no, genuinely, I think first varsity game as captain for coin toss, right? And then this was senior year, and I would have been inside linebacker as well. So co-captain with a dude named Ryan Amerson, but we ran the defense this year, right? Coming off state championship, no big deal.
Owen Daniels.
Owen Daniels.
For
Super Bowl
our
champion.
listeners only, this is a video podcast available on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. But for our listeners only, above us is a framed photo of Luke running back the only touchdown in his career.
Yeah.
Yes, and?
No, that's the end of the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and was it did it go on the scoreboard?
Yeah, momentarily.
Okay.
It was called back because someone who is never going to listen to this, Joe Alvarez, got called for defensive holding on this wing tee. He tackled the dive on a wing tee offense, and they called it a holding. I don't know. So we basically counted. Yeah, those were the days. And then there's a lot more to that story with Bob Sakamoto, who will also never listen to this, who's WGN. I grew up in Illinois, Naperville Central high school football. And we were playing, no, it wasn't Lockport. Maybe it was. All I know is Craig Dupong was supposed to run all over the Red Hawks defense. And I think we shut him out and they got one first down, And I think it was our first game of the season. This is like very much Al Bundy Pokai football. But
those moments are important. We all have those
sure.
high school stories. So I like to emphasize it because it's a pillar, it's a core memory.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we all have that then can be referenced later on, half jokingly.
Well, it is, but because I was going into Al Bundy, listen, okay. You Mr. Yes and, okay? Because I say it lighthearted, but the matter of the fact is these are trenched memories, emotions, and feelings that still resonate today, 20 years, how old am I? 30 years? 35?
28?
25 years later. You know what I mean? And, I think of the dynamic that I try to create on teams that I get to build or on teams that I get to join, whether it be work, whether it be flag football when I played that, whether it was, what do we play? Pickleball when we were playing pickleball in Austin. I've been out of the rec beer league career for some time now, but like there's kind of like an intensity and perception and pattern of behaviors that go back to like the lessons I was fortunate enough to learn from my coaches.
Mm-hmm.
It like throughout my high school career. And I know we've traded high school war stories for literally forever. So basically every weekend we traveled, which was 200 of them. But I guess listeners of your show know your backstory in your high school football career, which was like getting lily padded.
Transactional.
Like, yeah. Transactional coaching. And it's just like these coaches, but I honestly don't blame those guys. Like, yeah.
So I don't hold remorse.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call them out by name. And I've since talked to them and then spoke through it. So that's why I'm able to provide the context that I do in these stories, but then also the context on my end where it was the needed sport within growing up to have context, character, support, verbal, emotional, which I wasn't getting at home. So context is there. So yeah, no remorse to those gentlemen.
Yeah,
I wasn't as athletically gifted as the dude behind me who did play in the NFL. So I'm not mad at him. He's still a good pal. So
yeah.
And context is provided.
Well, I think it's like you can maybe compare, contrast the stories, and for whoever's listening, whether parent, coach, athlete, whatever, is like two very different tracks in the sense that there's a class of athletes in your story that ultimately got pushed off to another opportunity, another trajectory, whatever you want to say. And then in our, at least in the seasons that I was playing, or call it the 10 seasons ahead, 10 seasons behind, there was like a feeder system into this high school where like there was like a puppet master that ensured that certain kids would play together in in-house football in NYF. It was NYFL. And then like they would join together in Pop Warner. And then that team stayed together and it was the same age bracket. And then they came into like the same high school. So like this puppet master was like grooming this team all the way up. Right. And I got to play football with dudes for like 10 years, and it created this trench sense of camaraderie and teamwork and, to fast forward again, those 25 years into current day when I'm asked by my bosses or, cause my sport now is work, right? Like I work to win. It's the second half of my life. The first half and most important half is family and fatherhood. And there's certainly a leadership dynamic in that space. And, a level of all of the elements, we're going to touch on, or you have touched on in previous episodes, are essential when you're raising little future, savages, because I have two daughters and I don't want them to grow up soft, which means they can't be raised soft, but that doesn't mean they can't be loved. Right. But, so whenever I'm challenged or on either end of these things, I always fall back to the fact that like, I am not a lone wolf and like, I do not want to carry the log across the finish line solo. Like I would rather lose together than win alone. Like that's just me. And it comes from whatever experiences I had as a kid playing sports, and getting to play with these guys that were like, the band of brothers type thing. And I don't think it's a unique perspective, or maybe it is. I haven't talked to enough people about their Al Bundy Polk High football moments to know. But that's, I think, what differentiates the level of impact a guy can make, either as an individual contributor or a member of a team, small team, large team, um, is where do you see yourself fitting in that space? And then even in the house, I don't know, like, when I say the house in the family life, like it's me and my wife, like we are a team without a doubt. There is no patriarch of the family. We complement each other. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses. We're aware of that. And then, nothing is ever hidden because the stakes are high, or at least we believe they are. We've made the stakes high and you have control over that. And your belief system is like, we want our kids to be the best versions of themselves, confident in who they are, capable in what they do, whatever route they take. Now, of course, I am maybe not, of course, and maybe not obviously, but for our listeners, I want one of my daughters to be a wrestler. Like I want her to wrestle or be in some sort of combat sport. I just want that skill. And I would love for it to be competitive. Now, will they do it recreationally? I think so, because one thing at the power athlete space, we always looked at long-term athletic development. How do you get your kids exposure and build a level of physical literacy? And for those who don't know, it's just like healthy relationship with physical activity. Like it's just like brushing your teeth. You got to exercise. You got to be fit. You got to eat healthy. And the benefits of that with our time and my time at KidStrong, that permeates every element of life too, as it relates to social well-being, emotional well-being, cognitive well-being, executive function, self-management. Like if you bang weights or lift weights or work out or you're just active and healthy, you're just like more put together, So
Stepping into the seminars, assigned specific components of this whole experience that we were provided was roles and responsibilities. So then differentiating those two of, hey, here are your roles for this. You will teach the power clean to this group. That was our intro for a lot of the coaches that stepped into that seminar space. And then there's responsibilities. Between the whistles is how I like to refer to it, is like somebody's presenting, but they're still, all right, we're going to take a bio break here between the whistle moments. So then speak to us about your understanding of roles and responsibilities, because I know that nomenclature is brought to the CrossFit football experience. So then framing that up, so then you could start to build that team.
At the time, it was just a word or phrase on assigning who's doing what, when, and why, and how, I guess, But I guess if you were to carve it out and get a little deeper on it, you go into the transactional and transformational. But my big belief is that, to really establish a conduit for transfer of knowledge, you gotta build trust in your group. I guess you could say, because people did, like, it was an elective course. They had to pay, it was voluntary to show up. So there was already like a genuine interest. But again, I wanted to be the best cert out there, and everything else to me, in my opinion, was just like, eye rolling, boring, dry, like information. And that's where you coined it infotainment. But I was like, it's got to be experiential.
Well, Homer coined it.
Homer Simpson?
Yeah.
Well, then you transferred his philosophy to ours. So responsibility then was like to make people to entertain the people, I guess, to deliver it to deliver our lessons and learning objectives in a manner that was memorable and entertaining. So like, and Jay Wellborn used to say, like, it was almost famous. He would quote, like, I can't remember.
I'm gonna look for the one guy not getting off, and I'll get him off.
Yeah. And that was it. It was like whoever was the crankiest nut in the basket is like, it became, we break, we go, who's not getting their moment or who hasn't got their moment, right? I think is what we used to say.
It's a range. Usually that was in line with a knowledge experience.
Yeah,
Not a good time because a lot of the movements were set up so people do fail, and that builds the buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when people did fail in particular movements, warm-ups, exercises, then they put a guard up.
Yeah.
So now, okay, in line with the like Socrates ethos, pathos, and logos. Okay, well, passion, they're not buying, they're not having the infotaining time. Ethos, maybe it was that it wasn't John delivering this. So now, okay, they're knowledge based.
Yeah.
Let's wow them with this lecture.
Yeah.
Or at one-on-one time, give them their moment to state their experience. So then, but being able to, this goes into social awareness, which we're going to get into SEL here momentarily, but you're able to read the room. So it's, I would reference now, there's teachers and there's lecturers. There's amazing lecturers that are just writing on the board to 300 students in one of those giant classrooms. Cool. You put up on YouTube and you're going to find your audience there. But then there's teachers. Okay, here's the information we're going to learn, but I'm able to read the room and pick out, okay, you're not understanding it, you're not getting it. How about this way? I'm saying the same thing a different way. Or maybe, okay, it's not clicking for you. I wouldn't say this in front of the group, but it's not clicking for you. All right, find me after this, or I'll find you after this, and then we'll find a connection for you.
Right.
Time out. Are you beat up, burnt out, and changing your workouts to what you think it's missing? If you're changing your own training program, I don't think it's the right training program for you. Give the Old Bull program a ride. It's a movement practice designed for the thinking man who's ready to train smarter, not just harder. We've eliminated your excuses by creating a flexible program that adapts to your schedule while intelligently addressing the wear and tear from years of grinding through poorly designed training. Each day offers options that honor your body's needs while still challenge you to grow stronger and look the part of a leader. Our programming systematically rebuilds your foundation, healing those beaten up shoulders, cranky hips, and stiff back that's holding you back. Join a community of lifelong athletes who've learned that sustainable progress comes through intelligent training. The Old Bull program, wisdom through movement. Click the link in the show notes for a 7-day free trial. Now, let's get back to the show. Ready, and ready.
Guy we work with now, old Patty Cakes, or you used to work with, but I work with now. You know, he used to call that technique like change the playing field or move the playing field. You know, just move it into their arena. You know, even if it's not clicking for them, that's okay. Let's get you there. You know, and just go into reshaping it as an opportunity and normalizing the fact that people don't get it, dude. Like some of the stuff we used to talk about was so complicated. And I'll tell you right now, like the stuff you're circling into here took me a long time to wrap my head around because I never acknowledged it. Maybe I was just gifted with it one day, you know, and I can tie it back to, you know, my childhood upbringing and being exposed to good coaches and my friends' parents were good parents. And, you know, there was not a lot of like turmoil and anything like that. And so maybe you just kind of absorb it, but I always took it for granted. But then you see, like, once you kind of zoom out and you're in charge of people and in charge of their successes and accountable for their successes, you got to be switched on and heady and understand where their limiting factors are in this space. And like the dynamic that I would have that experience in, would not, at least in my days now, is not lecturing. You know, it's with my team at work. And it's like, if someone does not have the self-awareness to does not know how to say the right thing in like a group setting, and they're just not aware that they're saying ridiculous stuff. Yeah, it becomes something that becomes prohibitive for them, and the team doesn't trust them and isolates that person. And maybe it's a bad apple that's going to rot the bunch, or maybe it's somebody who just never has received that level of mentorship or honest, candid feedback from a place of love and care. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm there navigating these hierarchies of awareness, is more in that space. But I like having been on both sides of it, whether in coaching or leading and managing in a business, it's like the same principles, dude. It's the same principles. All you're trying to do, and I don't know who you stole this one from, and so I won't credit you. Obviously, it's probably like Coach Carter or something, but you're trying to you're trying to bring people to a place that they can't bring themselves, right?
There's two people to credit for that. The first is Jeff Mad Dog Madden. This is when I was an intern at University of Texas Football, and that was his big why of coaching, which is to bring people where they can't bring themselves. But then there's another man out there named Coach Martin Rooney, and then he added a layer to this. So I'm sure he knows Madden, but then Madden told it to me personally. But Rooney's is bring people where they want to go, that they can't get to themselves.
Yeah.
So that added line in there, that's a big depth, because as a coach, this is the coaching paradox where I want so bad for these kids that are not there yet to then bring them to the potential that I see. So then you start to want it more than them, and then you start this resentment cycle, which a lot of coaches get trapped into.
Sure.
So if they don't want to go there, I'm going to meet them where they're at. So then, yeah, that's an added layer to that, in line with what you're saying, is if they want to go there.
Yeah. Where was I going to go with this? I just think through, like, my true coaching experience is not really as in depth as yours, in the sense of like the title of coach, But I think what's interesting is adult fitness, CrossFit. So I've like group fitness coach, sure, done that. And I guess you can call like being a trainer is, coaching coaches essentially. 3-year-old girls soccer, coached the season of that.
Go Tornadoes.
Yeah, tiny tornadoes. And then, I mean, whatever else was I coaching? Tex, like that's about it, right? Maybe some seminars that we did with some teams and people,
Any football kids?
But way back in the day, yeah, sure. Yeah, so I guess there's like these really interesting pockets of small doses of coaching, and I go back, like, as you're talking about, I guess where a coach would see an athlete can achieve, like the level they could achieve would be their potential, right? Like you see their potential, but perhaps they don't. And that's why they're unwilling to meet you there. So then you have to compromise off of your vision of this utopian version of Joey, right? Whoever Joey is. And then you just work them up 1% at a time and see what they're willing to take.
Depends. So this is where like my year at Kids Trunk becomes valuable. It depends. So I mean, keep rolling on this thread, and then I'll highlight my big three that were, I mean, essential for my growth as a coach, and then the mission and vision of the captains and coaches.
I'm curious what your philosophy is here, because you've obviously gone way deeper than I have. My approach has always been like earn trust. Back in the old corporate days, my old boss said people will work for people that they know, they like, and they trust. So, but what's ironic at that time, it is like I was totally pretending to be somebody else in this corporate office. I was like, if you've seen Workaholics, that's who I was outside. But then I'd come in and then I'd be like,
they're that way inside too.
Well, exactly. But I would come in and be this polished, like Ivy League, pretend, hardworking dude who just was like wearing this mask, and it became exhausting. And I do think that's why I flamed out on corporate. Dude, I wonder if I told you this before, like, I wonder if I just went in and was genuinely who I was, which is like, not like a scumbag or dirtbag, but just like
the office space,
like a normal 25-year-old dude. Well, how old was I? Like 22, right? Maybe looking back now, I know what a 22-year-old kid can be. It can go, and there's a huge spectrum. And I know that spectrum narrows as you age, right? Hopefully, the bell curve just narrows. Like people just kind of like don't want to be wild child anymore. With the exception of some of our, or not colleagues, but what would you call them? Compatriots?
comrades.
Yes.
Commies.
Our commies. But all that to say is like, I also really didn't like anybody that I worked for there. You know, they're just like, it just wasn't my thing. So,
And they may not have extended the no, so they didn't
yeah,
give
it's a
they
two-way
didn't
street,
give
right?
you the opportunity to get to know them.
Yeah, but they were like these people of authority who I thought I had to impress when in actuality, they probably just wanted me to be my authentic self, right? So like therein lies a barrier to anyone, you know, if you're thinking about a client in group fitness or um you know, a coach you're teaching at a seminar, which goes back to CrossFit football, is like if you could break the ice, create a connection, tell them a little bit about themselves, about yourself, and then people love talking about themselves. Like this is all Dale Carnegie stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like employ some of that, and even in the coaching framework and dynamic, like you're starting to open up that conduit, right? Where I think that the the individual who you see potential in, and there's like movies about this, plenty of movies, Good Will Hunting, right? Um, but then they just become more receptive and willing and able to apply your feedback. The problem is when you find these people who are so guarded, or the like, we almost go to the like the most impossible cases. This is also a skill that's very hard to do at scale, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a small niche. So that's like a mentor concept, right? So you can, it's hard to turn around a whole herd. I mean, it's possible, but it's just harder, right? And it's going to be a more significant battle. And then you have to be more patient and willing to lose even more and more and more and get smash your head against the wall more and more and more until one day you can reach these kids, you know?
Yes, and that's where like true culture comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's raising the expectation 1% as much as you can. That could take a week, that could take a month, it could take a year, but then eventually over time you get Red Hawks football culture.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do want to highlight in respect to leadership, I want to call out. I had Dr. Brad on. This is referencing back to a previous episode. He's the psychologist, sports psychologist, but he's talked about leadership, authoritarian versus authoritative.
Okay.
And he's an awesome guy because he takes family dynamics and then applies them to sport.
Mm-hmm.
So in respect to this, authoritarian and authoritative is a parenting term. So authoritarian is do this or else.
Mm-hmm.
Authoritative is expectation.
Yeah. We do this.
We do this. So I've seen you model the authoritative very well. So then that is something that he brings to coaching and perspective on helping shape coaches using the family dynamic model. Because if we look at that, it's almost a triangle. You have kid, coach, and parent all in a triangle.
Yep.
Parent is projecting onto the kid, whether they know it or not, and sometimes the coach.
Yep.
And then kid is projecting up to the coach. They can't help it. And then certainly to the parent. And so it's this dynamic. And sometimes the coach, this is what we run into in that transactional sometimes, is when the coach starts to project onto the kid.
Yeah.
And then the parent. If parent tries to throw down or do something, I've seen some crazy stuff from parents. So that is authoritarian or authoritative, like a good way, a filter to look on how I'm being approached as a coach from a parent perspective. And then if a kid, and this is all the light bulbs started to go off for me at Kid Strong, and that authoritative, I applied that because I thought, I'm coach, you must listen. Certainly my first few years at college level athletics, I did this, you listen to me. I had success, you listen to me. So now with the Kid Strong, learning these different developmental stages of kids.
Yeah.
Whenever there was a key, hey, we're 7, we're talking about interpersonal skills in schools. They're learning to do group work, or PE is focused on team games. Okay, so now I was thinking run in I had with a kid where they were a bad teammate.
Yeah.
I would then label them, oh, this kid's a bad teammate, and then feedback to the other coaches, hey, like, we need to watch out for him. Or step in and aim to be a solution for them. So, I mean, imagine we're going through your pitch deck here, like the stages of development, SEL, and then I want to close with neurolinguistic programming.
We're talking stages of cognitive development.
Yeah.
Jean Piaget's stage of cognitive.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and that's these are stages, childhood stages, like 11, 12 and under. But if you think about, I don't know if you have any parents listening, but your babies believe before, like about 4 years old, there's this limbic leap. And prior to that, they're in this stage called sensory motor phase or stage. And like, this is where if you have a 3-year-old who seems like he's in dreamland, it's because he is. Like there is no it's just like a bad acid trip. If I'm assuming, I've never been on any acid trips, good or bad, but like it's this, your sensory system is still calibrating, right? And there is very little logic that is going, like there's no logic in the brain. So, and that's why, especially in babies, like newborns, that's like the most ripe phase of it, as they're perceiving light, then color, then shapes, right? So that phase is mostly wired up to, and that's why they're like wiring up, and that's why their babies are so dependent on parents, right? And that's their survival instinct, is to like kind of be this needy little brat, and as far as like the opportunities there from a coaching standpoint in Kid Strong, all you're really doing is repetition of very simple concepts, as it relates to social emotional concepts, where, for the listeners, Kid Strong's a training program for kids who are walking to 11 years old. It's in a brick and mortar facility. It's led by a coach. It's a 45-minute class. Our aim is to introduce kids to a whole child curriculum where coaches are facilitating social emotional activities, cognitive activities, and it's all rooted in physical activity and athletic play. Parents are involved here because they have to be, because kids will not respond at that age without some level of proximity to their parent. And they will likely not respond to anyone but their parent until there's this element of trust, right? And familiarity. So going back to the repetition, is like kids are high-fiving each other, fist bumping each other, and understanding turn taking and being introduced to co-play and some of these social concepts that like are truly they're not wired up for yet, but you build familiarity in it. So when they go through this leap from sensory motor phase to oh man, I was right there. I wish I had my slide in front of me. I can tell you pre-operational is the final phase. It'll come to me. But this phase starts to get into like the social dynamic, right? The importance of friendship. It's where authority figures are, like the concept of authority figures are introduced. Like, and that's what they talk about in kindergarten, right? Is like, what's an authority figure? A police officer, a fireman, and what their responsibilities are. And friendships are starting to like form, but they're still in this kind of like dreamland too. So they're like, you can brainwash these kids with in a good way. Like, and that's where this authoritative, at least my approach with being an authoritative father, is like, it like you just build these recurring principles that become rooted in belief. Right, wrong, or indifferent. And you see this in the news sometimes, like when there's these really edgy political, or social issues, and you see like 4-year-olds out there with these like really profane signs, and they're like, yeah, F the, unions or whatever.
I'm just thinking of a meme of like a Boston Red Sox kid with his middle fingers up.
Yeah, right. Like that behavior is becoming, is like being cemented by observation or the environment, right? But think about weaponizing that for good, right? If you're, from a parent's perspective, if you're out there and what a value you want your child to adopt is to lift weights and work out, well, have your kids come out in your garage gym with you, or do some sort of exercise with your kids, and don't ask, tell. Hey, it's time to exercise. Let's go. And then they don't have to do it. They just got to watch, right? But you do it all the time, all the time, all the time. If you want a form of community service. Bring them with you to donate things, donate toys. There's like any parent in here who, has a trillion toys like us, which we really don't have that many. I feel bad for my kids, but new toy in, let's give someone else your old toys. And it just happened today. We're in the middle of moving and packing, and the girls are like, where are our baby toys? Because we kept baby toys because I thought maybe we'd have a third kid, but life goes on. My wife said no. And I said, hey, well, we gave them to a family that couldn't afford toys. And now kids who would never have had toys get to have them because you guys were generous enough to give it. And like, this is a conversation we're constantly having, right?
The repeater. It's paid off.
Yeah, it is paying off.
It's the repeater. It's paid off.
What is this face? Google it for me. And then you don't have the Google? I'm sorry.
No. So my model for podcast, the aim is to...
Well, whoever's out there is like, it's the freaking...
Spell, you know how to spell Piaget?
Piagete. I think. Piaget.
Stages of development.
Yeah. And then the final is concrete operational, where you just start to like get analytical thinking, which is ultimately the element of strategy and teamwork, like not necessarily working together towards a task, but working together to figure out the best way to achieve a task. And like receive, process, rebuttal, apply, But I guess all that to say is like there is if the kid's not ready for it, and maybe this is where the segue is going, like if they're not ready to receive just from a cognitive space, then how their brain works, then you're like not going to get the response you're looking for, right? Nope. And then I guess the parallel into that is you get out of this like early childhood and great school age, era of life and into the teenage area, like, which candidly I'm not like an expert in yet because I don't need to. I'm sure when my kids turn like 11, I'll find some sort of job that has me working like in educational psychology for high school or something, But like the bittersweet part of teenage kids, and like this is like preteen and in that 10 to 12-year-old, as well as like the parents lose control, their ability to control. Mm-hmm. Their level of influence drops significantly, and the people who have the most influence over kids' beliefs, behaviors, in like those teenage years, and it, like I guess if there's adults listening, like hell yeah, are their peers.
Yeah.
Hence peer pressure. Like I remember health class and learning about peer pressure in like 8th grade, freshman year. I'm like, that no way, and like it's definitely a thing.
I do have to throw this out there. Luke's elementary and middle school and high school system, there's actually a book written about this that you got to experience. It's called Spark. There's also Candace, WNBA player.
Parker.
Candace Parker, so one of the best WNBA players of all time, came from this whole system as well. So like it's produced successful folks, and there's a book written on it, and some of the coaches, like hilariously, I serendipitously read this book and then key in on Naperville and then name drop some of the coaches to you, and you're like, man, I hate that guy.
Oh, yeah. I remember him. Well, I should say I did hate that, but I was like a terrible high school kid. Oh, my God. My poor high school teachers, and except football coaches.
You were a state champion.
Athlete. Yeah, I mean, school's just waste time at that point, at least in my belief system. But so peers, parents, and coaches. So yeah. For the coaches of this age group, you have an enormous opportunity here to earn trust, and like is an interesting term because, I did not like some of my coaches, my position coach, I liked, defensive coach, didn't like, head coach, didn't like, but I trusted them. And, I look back on it, in terms of just what they had created there, with that team and that era of teams was really interesting because I remember like they were all in, and it was like radically consistent how passionate they were about the team, about the culture, about the mission of being the best school in the country and winning state titles, to the point there were several games where we as a squad let them down, and they said those things,
Yeah.
and not in like a punitive way, but like I can remember these coaches at halftime crying, like, you guys let us down. This is not, we have a belief in you. We know you're better than this. And it wasn't like this punitive thing. And it was really like, I don't know if this was scripted or not, but it was a game against Wheaton Warrenville South in his halftime. And it was like one of those teary eyed things, coach choking up. And then he just got pissed off and he threw the chalk. Yeah, we had chalk against the chalkboard. And all the coaches walked away. Like he walked away, then like another coach. And it was like 2-minute halftime speech,
Yeah.
And then we just sat there like, we better fucking pick it up. And we went out there and picked it up, and like it changed it, but like it felt real. It felt real in the moment. And I guess if it was scripted, it worked. Who cares? A little bit. But I would be surprised if it wasn't like real passion and emotion. And it was just like radically consistent across every single game, across every single practice. At least that was my experience and how I remember it.
Yeah, middle school sports are important, and from my perspective, I've coached middle school sports. Parents do talk down to them,
Mm-hmm.
so it is important that a coach has the awareness that like it's not about you. Don't take that shit personally, and middle school sports are the buffer. It's the first time that dad is not coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time you're handing off your responsibility of your child to a professional coach. So they're paid by the school to coach your kid in football, volleyball, track, whatever. So that is importance for that independence. Like fast forward back to being 4 when they're handed off to their kindergarten teacher.
Yep.
And that independence. Now instead of just the bond between them, now it's the athletic bond.
Mm-hmm. I had a thought though when you said that, like, because I'm thinking about parents and how they ruin everything, like ruin everything, and not all parents, right? But parents have the power to ruin the experience on the field. Like you hear horror stories. I remember coaching Pee Wee football and being so thankful I didn't have to deal with parents and watching our head coach, who's a dad of one of the players, right? But he was what was he? He was like he founded or was the principal or president or something of a PR firm for Mayor Daley in Chicago when he got busted with a whole bunch of stuff. But like he's like razor sharp tongue, and he would dress these parents down and they just hated it. But all that to say is like, I think I haven't been on the like a pitch or like a field or a whatever, like for junior high sports. But I've heard stories how parents can be so controlling or interfering. But do parents do that with their kids' teachers? Like, is that a common thing?
I do not know.
Like, I would never hit up Miss Winky in kindergarten class and be like, why are you teaching Ruby about bats like that? Bats don't squeak. It's called sonar. Like my point being is like, granted, I've got to meet her. She's 20 years kindergarten and like she knows her stuff. But if anyone knows what those kids are ready to receive, it would be her. And when I mean ready to receive, I'm talking about from, a school curriculum, which is also regulated by the state or the district, whatever you're in, right? But going back to like a pro coach, and, this isn't like knocking, there's always going to be a new junior high coach, Tex, right? But there's going to be your junior high coach has been doing it for 10 years. And then there's going to be the ones that like do it for 40 years. All that to say is like, at some point, parents just got to parents do not know better. I would be shocked, especially in being able to work with parents with my current gig. And I'm in our centers all the time. I've talked to 5,000 parents, maybe, in opening centers around the country too. And like parents do have no clue what their kids are ready for. And like, that's not a knock on them. It's just like, there's no instruction manual. And if you really want to go deep, you like got to pay a lot of money and get some mentorship. What's up, baby? We're talking on the camera. Let's go like this and wave. Okay. But that's a little intermission from our girl Ruby. from a coaching standpoint, like especially in middle school, it's really interesting because there's still like middle school kids, which is going to be your 12, 13, 11, 12, 13 year olds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe half are not ready to be truly coached. You know what I mean? So the level of expectation there should just be like exposure, just exposure. The whole purpose is to like expose your
Mm-hmm.
kid, regardless of their background and level of coaching prior to that. You know what I mean? So the fact that they're being coached is the win. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's also not to like minimize the efforts of any middle school coach out there as well. You obviously want to coach to the best of your ability and do your best to transform a kid's belief in themselves and in their capabilities. Um, you know, the real I think kids are starting to get wired up around 14, 15, 16. That's when they're really starting to get wired up, at least cognitively. But socially, probably not there because now this authority figure is just like, what does he know? You know, unless you look the part, that's probably how you get the respect.
Which is incredibly important. Modeling not only in your behavior but also your posture, your lifting weights, your actions.
Yeah.
So how you're treating respectfully from like a male coaches, how you're treating women within
Mm-hmm.
the teachers, the front desk, etc., and aiming to model all forms of behavior, and then physical for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't look the part either, like you just, it's fine. Just, you have a
Well,
different hill to
what
climb.
actions? Then
Yeah.
you're speaking to. I ran. I got my walk in. I
Mm-hmm.
did this, or I'm eating this.
Yeah.
So there's still opportunities for you to model certain behaviors. The so transitioning to SEL, a lot of this where we're negatively speaking about parents is low self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they're successful in their business world, so then they assume that that success would lead to coaching and leading teams and connecting with kids,
Mm-hmm.
calling plays.
Mm-hmm.
So now that is, I mean, it's called Dunning-Kruger, right?
Mm-hmm.
You assume your success in one field will transition into other fields. So then that again is that low self-awareness. So walk us through the stages of SEL and then where it transitions to, I guess, the elementary level child development.
Well, what's interesting is like at least from our observation and several of the, experts in this space from their perspective as well as practitioners is like the stages are not as tightly bound as cognitive development.
Yeah.
So, within, let's say, a 4-year-old, who I'm looking at right here, may have the same social emotional capacity as it relates to self awareness as like you're 5 now? Oh, wow. A 5-year-old may have the same social emotional awareness capacity as it relates to self awareness as like an 11-year-old. It's just, it is a new field in terms of tracking the development and the ebbs and flows, right? And certainly puberty and the new social circles like that just kind of waves it sine waves, you know what I mean? And I think it's a trend line up, is from what I understand. But as far as like the specific stages, I think of them more as like spokes on a wheel, right? They're just they're interrelated capacities, of which there is not a ton, from my knowledge, a ton of dependency. You know what I mean? Like in certain, like in the space of sports performance and performance traits, like you can be super strong at the expense of power and speed, right? So
Yes.
like there's this, what's the word I'm looking for? Is that like a compensatory relationship there?
Yes, and sometimes, I mean, that's a benefit for your position.
Yeah.
So it's not a knock on anything. It's okay, this position, and this is where kids then fall into programs that it enhances their potential natural ability in spite of some of their other athletic components.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a different conversation. This is, yeah, more that social emotional development. So keep going.
I forgot where I was going. So tee me up.
I guess, a natural component, I guess is very external for teachers, parents. Oh, you're really good at talking to people, or you're really good at this. So then that gets gasoline poured on it. And then, I mean, the spokes and wheels, social, emotional development, I guess not as fixed as cognitive, but still in play as people develop. Sometimes 5-year-old is on the same self-awareness track as an 11-year-old.
Yeah, and like, and at the end of the day too, it is like, as you think of SEL, like it requires a social petri dish to flex and progress as well. So that's where advice to parents is like, make sure your kid has great friends, because they're going to become a reflection of that. So it's for assuming there's no neurodivergence or any sort of developmental delays, that they're just going to be a product of their environment as it relates to that. And parents have influence over that up until that 10, 11 years old. And then it starts to diminish.
Yes. So then there also is an assumption for a lot of parents at home that they're getting these lessons at school and sport. And then the same is for teachers and coaches. How are you not learning this at home?
Well, I'll tell you, like, from my understanding of the school system as well is, they're, well, at least in Texas, and I forget what they're called in other states, but Texas calls them TEKS, but they're the state standards on competencies, right? And there's standardized testing around them, and very little of these competencies are social emotional capacities. So, like, all that to say is schools aren't good at this yet, because they're in a vicious loop of funding, right? Is that they have to, it's why schools are getting rid of PE, because like their standardized testing doesn't
Is not the president's fitness test.
Yeah, you don't get funding on it anymore, to my knowledge. Now that may be changing. I'm out of the loop on this. This info is maybe 4 years old. So like, I would say that you can't trust the schools, and not again in like a demeaning sense. Like, it's not like they're trying to sabotage your kids, but it's just not it's not on the priority list. That's where it comes down to the teacher. And then that's where, if the teacher is switched on and schooled in this, or the principal is pushing this down in that location, but they're still able to achieve their criteria for funding, then you'll get some of that. But yeah, I think as that you start to scaffold that up and kind of ladder that up into the older years, and even into adults, and even into like your young adults, late 20s, the thing about it is starts to become trenched, like, or rooted.
Yeah.
Right. So now you have these, these like phenotypes or archetypes that it's not about necessarily shifting their capacities. It's understanding how to work within that, and I'm thinking like in the workplace,
that is your challenge as a leader in the workforce. And then how I want to position this for coaches is that the coaches are the last line of defense at the high school level, unless they're playing college, to now have an opportunity to intervene through your teamwork or movement or exercise, where they can learn these lessons before they got to hand them off to professor or boss who's not going to put up with this.
Yeah.
So in that last line of defense, and then walking through SEL, certainly to our listeners, Google it, but self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship building, and then decision making. Ultimately, in my mind, leading to responsible decision making. So in reflecting to sports, if in the highest level of competition the kid is making mistakes, and coach is like, "What? Where were you on that one? You didn't even know where the ball was." So then, using practice, training, stress to then, this is where my understanding, I like the perspective of spokes on a wheel, but when I'm writing a practice plan, I can give us a theme today of self-awareness, where I like it as a strength and conditioning and sport coaches, or warm up, that's self-awareness. You're doing a self-check-in, and then if anything is wrong, I can see it with movement, but I need you to know hamstrings are tight, calves are jammed up. So then you're feeling this and you can communicate to me and I can give you a movement solution for that stuff. And then the social awareness, this is where leadership comes in. Our pre-huddle captains or leaders on the team are speaking first.
Mm-hmm.
So now if they're starting to speak in a demeaning manner, negative, etc., then I can help shape where they're at, where their mind is. There's plenty of one-on-one time in a practice. And then self-management. This is, I feel, the biggest challenge is like no penalties during a game. How are you treating your teammates? If you're not getting into practice or games, like, how are you responding? So then looking for all these different decisions that the kids are making and then aiming to mentor. But again, coach only has 4-6 hours a week versus at home, but it's not nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So helping them, and then relationship building. This is on the coach as well, making sure we're treating each other with respect in our 6 hours, so it translates into the school 6 hours a day, and then decision making. Not shaming, not jumping on them, not effectively creating an anchor that's a negative, but an anchor that's a memory so I don't make that mistake again.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like I failed versus I am a failure. Reframing decisions versus, MFing. So then like that's the SL model, and then how I'm approaching it and taking it to sport. And like, yeah, nothing is as laid out in the stages as you pointed out, but still an opportunity for us to frame how a coach approaches this stuff.
Yeah.
Before handing them off to a professional.
Yeah.
In the business world.
Yeah. And I would say like it's tricky because it's all interrelated. It's all individualized.
Yeah.
At least from my understanding, again, I'm by no means the authority on it, but have had the great opportunity of talking to some experts in that field in my line of work currently. But yeah, and then it at the end of the day, it all comes down to influence, dude. Your ability to influence. And I go back to old Joel, my old boss, know, like, and trust. And my approach has always been lead from the front and work alongside, So that meaning like as things get really tough, I'm the first one in, but like I will never go so far ahead where I can't take a step back and be right in the saddle in the sidecar, when the guys take over. And then like once there's momentum and I don't need to be that driving force, I sit and wait. And just wait for the guys and gals to ask for help. And yeah, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of lead them to a solution or, figure out how to reduce the friction, unblock them. And sometimes it's stuff that I just got to do or conversations I need to go have, to de-burden the team and get them back on back in the fight and feeling as if we have momentum, because there's nothing worse than like a team having a mutual feeling of stagnation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And without it being vocalized, everyone feels it, and then you get the side eye.
Mm-hmm.
Team members are over here, and then either not an acknowledgement from leadership, a low awareness from leadership, or just that's too big a problem for me to handle. So let's push it back, and the rest of the team is double taken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last component, neuro-linguistic programming.
You're in trouble, buddy.
This is good. This is good value here.
For our listeners, my wife has given me a 1 hour curfew at 1:01:33.
Well, this is an important component. Neuro-linguistic programming.
Mm-hmm.
NLP.
She may have left without us. We're going to have to drive separately. It's okay. Keep going. NLP.
NLP.
Oh, no, she's here.
She's going to NLP.
Yeah.
Yeah. What the weight of words.
Yes.
So I know coaches say these things,
mm-hmm.
and then I join a lot of different sport coaching teams, and this is the biggest arm wrestling match that I have to have, is creating an awareness for them for the very words they're using.
Mm-hmm.
They want the best. However, they're saying different things that are hey, don't do that. We don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's so framed negatively. So then speak to us about this scientific approach to words and then how, I mean, you introduced this to adults to start now coaching and applying to children.
Sure. Well, it comes in three forms to my knowledge. Okay. It's ultimately like the things you hear over and over get cemented as reality. But the way to break the bond, the most effective is self-talk in the sense that, at Kid Strong, every class, the way we introduce NLP for our kids is they say, I am strong, I am brave, I can do this. And with kids too, to help them reinforce these terms, applying gestures or positions or poses, um, like speeds up the belief behind it. So we have I am strong, I am brave, I can do this. Um, the second, and that, like, you say it so much you begin to believe it. It rewires the brain. Okay. That's where, like, if you wake up, like if you're just in a trench, and like this came from a book called Tiny Habits, BJ something Tex. You'll figure it out. It's in the Google once you get the internet, or for whatever reason you don't have Google for me right now. Taking notes. He calls it the Hawaii method or something. But anyways, it's a behavior change book. And he said every morning, wake up, look in the mirror and say, today's going to be a great day. And after about 2 weeks, it will change your perspective. And speaking from a personal rut, like I'm like, oh, this is like takes 2 seconds and is free. I'll do it. And it does change your belief about the day. Right. So like that's self-talk and saying it out loud, not thinking it. And I don't think there's like totally novel. People have heard this all the time, but like all I'm saying is it works. And we see it work with kids. Like I've seen it work with 100 kids who come in, whether or not they're introverted or just like don't have a high level of social capacity. That after about 6 weeks of saying this affirmation 2 times in a class, once a week, and then probably once or twice outside because it's kind of cool, right? Their parents get behind it. They change, dude. It is amazing. Okay, so that's number one, like the self talk. Then number two is like the immediate talk. Okay, and this probably like honestly this is the least effective. Let me go back. The next one is like earshot. We're on time, babe. Is earshot. And so the way I've talked about is earshot praise.
This is very important.
And I was talking to our boy MC last night at dinner. He has a 7-year-old son who's been in jujitsu for maybe 8 weeks. And just like, he really wants his son to get it because his son's best friend does it and loves it. But his son like really wasn't doing it. He's like doing it, but like became obligatory. And his son's friend, Zandy, his dad was over.
And his dad is he's a mixed martial artist.
Yes.
So the son has been exposed to this before.
Yeah. So they're at his house and his boys just playing, like the boys are just playing, and they were like kind of listening to their dad's talk. And then the other dad says, hey, I gotta tell you something. Logan, like, is switched on. He figured it out. He is like really good at this BJJ thing. And it was within earshot. And this was unintentional, but it was within earshot. And Logan was listening and heard it. Right. And then next thing you know, when like he's asking his dad, like, hey, can we go to BJJ? Then that very class, Logan's coach says, you have turned a corner. You are going to be great at this. And now he can't, like, Logan's obsessed. Right. So that earshot praise, or on the contrapositive of that, right? Like the demeaning statements that you say about a kid within earshot. Oh, he's shy. Oh, he's shy. You're projecting and imprinting this belief about that kid's self just by saying it in earshot, not even to them. It's more impactful, more influential. Right. Yeah. And then like the third least, but still form of that NLP is like, you'll never amount to anything, kid. You're a schlub. Why are you so shy? Why are you so stupid? Like all these terrible versions of that. But like take it on the other. Honey, you are brave. You are brave. Like you don't know how caring you are. You're a good person. You're kind. That's just the least effective way to do it. Not saying that you shouldn't, but if my daughter was next to me and someone said, "Oh, so she's shy," I'd say, "No, she's not shy. She's really outgoing. It takes her a minute to warm up." And like that is the what I can do. Like that's the best version of what I can do until she says I'm not shy. And like that becomes her mantra. If that's the thing, you know.
Yes. And I mean, infinitely within coaching. Because even if the earshot, and I mean, this may be a fourth layer as you get into the middle school and the high school sports, or I mean, even college, where if we're coach to coach and I'm talking to you about player X, we can't trust him. And then player Y hears it, he goes and tells player X.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Devastating.
Devastating.
Mm-hmm. Which
So,
is, you know, now that I'm reflecting, as I've told you many times, how great my teammates were in my senior year of high school. Ironically, our team motto that year was "My teammates are great."
mm-hmm.
So every practice, start of practice, every practice, end of practice, we said, "My teammates are great." And everyone thought it was so stupid. And like it was and is. But what's the power of that is, I don't know if this is why Joe Bungie did it, but we even had shirts that were made. "My teammates are great." You know, and like that's how I remember it. That's how I believe it, you know. And there's people on there that like I was not friends with, but I probably right now would reflect and say, yeah, they were great dudes, you know? Um, but yeah, that is a really, really effective way to change belief and behavior about kids and adults too, by the way. And it is the most effective in that earshot space if it's someone of authority and respect.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the fact that Zandy's dad, who's like a savage, right? This dude is like basically a mutant superhero to Logan. He said it about him, you know, and it cemented a belief in just one rep.
Exactly.
But that's not how it always happens. It takes several, depending on how trenched the belief is in that kid. It'll take several.
Yes. So I've found effective ways to integrate this SEL development into online programming.
Mm-hmm.
So how my approach is, I write 6-week cycles, and then I'm tackling a negative trait that I feel kills teams, infects individuals, and then prevents them from ever becoming leaders. So envy, anger. So there's different sides of all these. So focus on a trait for 6 weeks, but then use this SEL approach and neurolinguistic programming to apply that. So week 1, create that self-awareness of when have you felt envious, and then try to uncover why, and from there walk through, okay, well, here's self-awareness components where if you feel this, then say this, and you may not believe it, but it will be healthier externally, and then working through social awareness. So now I'm not just saying this to myself, now I'm aiming to compliment a person I don't get along with.
Mm-hmm.
So finding something good within them, and then self-management. If I feel the tick, the anger, well, then practice trying this. So work through this by the end of the 6 weeks. Now I'm aiming to make more responsible decision makings connected to envy and et cetera, different negative traits. And then the movement is your meditation time, because it's a flexible training program for a lot of leaders, fathers, people who you got either 2 to 6 hours to work out a week. That's it. So then I spend my 60 minutes or my 30 minutes, whatever the program calls for, focusing on this prompt, and then close out with these questions.
Mm-hmm.
So this self-leadership leads into now when I see it in my kids, if my kids are acting envious, or my team, kids on my team, I'm coaching high schoolers, or within the teams that I'm managing, if we're seeing those traits where person A got a raise, person B feels that they deserve that, okay, well, how can I step in versus stepping back? Again, self-leadership with this program, aiming to then help translate to different opportunities within their arena. So that's the connections. The old bull, which we were hidden in your garage
Oh yeah.
for some time here, and That's the aim here. So still a lot to learn and uncover here. I see the connection between all these things that I picked up within my year for mistakes that I made as a leader and a coach, and then helping empower future captains and team leaders
Yeah.
for this. Because they're going to face these problems, and better you have the social emotional tools to lead through them versus stopping.
Yeah.
Walking around, or I mean, even worse, just not taking responsibility and blaming other people.
Avoidance.
And where do they take that into some negative cycle that doesn't end good for anybody? So we've got the red light from the missus. So we got to end this episode, but I imagine there will be more. So thank you for joining me. Thanks for everything.
Hey, it was very nice meeting you today. You seem like a nice guy.
I'm a new man. So there you go. You're not wrong. Well, if people want to follow you, I know you're on social and you now have less followers than I, so
I don't know, man. Like what is it anyways? The Instagram's the Luke Summers. Maybe one day I'll get back in there and put all my really engaging jokes in there, my stories, what these kids are doing these days. But you can take a peek at me over there.
And then, I mean, you've dropped enough for people that are interested to go take on and learn. So that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taking these steps. Well, we got a dinner to go to, so onward and upward. And thanks for joining us, listeners. Bye.
Bye.
Scene.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Captains and Coaches podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show as we continue to deep dive leadership from a lens of athletics and beyond. And now stay tuned for a little snippet from Luke and I's side project podcast. Say that 5 times fast. We like to call trailer Just Met Her. Here we go. Don't hate us. Bye.
Movies. What we're celebrating is the best part of the movie, which is the compilation of all of the most significant sequences to convince someone to show up and actually spend their money to watch a movie, the trailer. And I think it's a face-off.
Face-off?
Between the trailer and the actual movie.
Oh, yeah.
Now, woven into this epic showdown is also the showdown between you and I.
Oh, yeah.
Your stupid opinions and then the things that matter, which is everything I say.
No.
Would you say that's an accurate representation of what this show is all about?
It's a representation.
Okay. So episode 1, we're just going. Very light outline. Again, the objective is...
We don't even know what this is.
The objective is we're going to rewatch the official announcement motion picture trailer of a movie. And then we're going to rate that movie against its trailer. And we're going to see who won. And along the way, we have a couple categories we're going to dive into. Where they lost me.
Which happens a lot.
What got Tex off.
Which happens a lot.
Who wants it.
From the movie?
And who would get it.
Who's going to get it?
The first
More
movie,
realistic.
The first movie we're going to hit is a Nick Cage classic, Gone, and in 60 seconds. So what year did this come out, McQuilkin?
This was the year 2000. And I believe in our breakdown of this, we're also going to talk through the significance of these movies and where we were in our lives.
Okay, so 2000. Yeah, I guess I was
summer of 2000.
Yeah, summer of 2000. So that I was in high school. I guess... Man, I fucking saw the movie.
You were peaking somewhere.
No,
Is this
it's
post state championship?
I don't even know. What's the month?
June 2000.
So it would be.
This is a summer blockbuster.
Post.
So post you.
I was just probably wearing my state championship ring, crushing it
in your Letterman.
100% in the Letterman's coat. I guarantee it's June, 90 degrees in Illinois, and I'm wearing my Letterman's jacket to go to the movies. I probably saw it with my buddy Amerson. We probably saw it at Seven Bridges. Man, I just can't remember the first time seeing it, but I've seen it dozens of times since.
Okay. I've seen it a handful, but did catch it in the theaters because I was 14, transitioned from 8th grade to high school. So this was it.
right?
Okay.
All you did in that time was go to the movies. We weren't drinking beers yet. And this was post paddling. So I know I've told you that story.
Sure.
It is your initiation for high school. You've seen Dazed and Confused. It is real. And so I was like riding high, and my sister was a rising senior. So it would be like, go to a high school party until you get kicked out, and then you go to the movies with your boys. So this was one of the films.
So you remember seeing this?
Oh, yeah. So 14 years old, summer, just getting dropped off
When
by
did
parents.
Fast and Furious come out? We've looked at this.
After this. This
Okay,
is
so
pre-Fast.
because I know for a fact, I remember seeing Fast and Furious, and I remember speeding home in my buddy Dolan's Mercury Mystique.
And just you raced after?
Oh, yeah, 100%. So I had to have seen it. Like, there's no way I didn't go see it. So part of this premise, ladies and gentlemen, is McQuilkin and I here are going to actually watch the trailer. When's the last time you watched the trailer for Gone in 60?
I can't even tell you the last time I've seen the movie.
Okay. So live viewing of the trailer and our reaction. This is going to be the highlight of all the movies. Everything this movie has to offer. Here we go.
Cut to the chase. Is that the tagline of the movie?
I got to say, it's pretty good.
It is pretty good for like a 14-year-old man, but I'm kind of lost.
What do you mean?
The taglines or what was posted as like written word had nothing to do with what was going on in there.
I guess I'm not even looking at that. So here's what I get.
I'm listening to the one-liners, seeing what's written on there.
Oh,
what are you singing?
I'm watching these cars get smashed up and these amazing driving scenes.
Yeah. Okay. And that appealed to us, in the year 2000. So we went and saw this, but like,
okay, so you see this preview now. Are you going to pay $10 to see this movie? Or if you're in Newport Beach, are you going to go pay $30 to see this movie?
Right now, at this time, no.
You're waiting for Netflix.
No. I'll wait till you tell me to go watch it, and then I'll probably wait till it gets on a plane. But like at
Plane
this
movie.
point, but I know and I like the movie, but the trailer, no.
All right. So next phase, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go in hot and we're going to go in fresh. We're going to watch this flick and come back and revisit what we got going on here on trailer. Just Met Her. Stand by.
We're back.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back.
2 hours later.
Part 2 of trailer.
Just Met Her.
As you know, we live previewed the preview to the motion picture Gone in 60 Seconds starring Nicolas Cage.
Amongst others.
Now, a couple things we want to talk about with this thing. First off, we watched the movie. Tex is laughing because it's great.
Who
won
the preview?
I think that the preview did not do the movie justice.
100%.
I think the movie fucking rocked it.
I think the movie beat the trailer for sure because the beginning, man, they did an amazing job. Whether it was just like these are like Robert Duvall, stand out.
Honestly, even the opening credits and like the stopwatch and the song choice, it's just like you're kind of getting pumped into it. So I got to say, like, man, the movie. Okay, so final
trailer.
Final review of the movie though, still not good, but great.
I should have marked like a time code for when it stopped being good.
Yeah. What type of trivia you want to dive into?
Some notes that I got was the first female voice. In Greek, this translated to "come in 60 seconds." I thought that was a chuckler. Final race scene. A lot of it it was at the pier, and pier had closed down in 1995 in Long Beach, and so they just let the stunt drivers improvise.
Oh, okay.
So they let the lead car, whoever that man was, just kind of go. And Nick Cage did a lot of his own stunts. So anytime like we saw Nick Cage driving, it was Nick Cage driving.
Yeah, that's what I remember that being a thing back in like when this first came out. That was like a current affair. That's not a real thing. But like what
current
entertainment
affair was a real thing.
Well,
I just don't think they talked about movies.
Entertainment Tonight.
This was a remake.
No way.
1974, and they had two of them. So there was a sequel to this from 1974.
Like in the original, there's a sequel. Do you think there's another Gone in 60 Seconds
No,
coming up?
because this
What?
fact is going to blow your mind. Are you ready for this?
I guess. Bring it.
Okay. So the buddy cop, Tim Oliphant, he's crushing it right now.
Yeah.
He was offered the role as lead in The Fast and the Furious.
Over fucking Paul Walker.
No.
What,
Over
Vin?
Vin Diesel,
Oh,
Dom
my
Toretto.
God.
Vin Diesel was the second choice for Dom.
Uh-huh.
And you know why Tim turned it down?
This fucking flick.
They were too similar.
Huh.
And he wanted to do more.
What a fucking whiff.
I don't think so. I think he's a great, like, true actor.
Oh,
Not-
God. Here we go.
The last 30 minutes is Fast and the Furious of just like stupid, ridiculous. Are you kidding me?
Well, that was one car chase, though. One tiny car
that
chase.
lasted 30 minutes.
The
And
whole Fast and Furious
here's-
series is a continuous car chase. Because
Dude.
I'm a firm believer that something can be great and awful at the same time.
I am not.
Well, I am. So let's talk about what made this fucking flick
Great.
absolutely great.
Okay. I got my gripes. I'm trying to look for my okay. The setup. Just they took their sweet time. So you got the coach from the Remember the Titans who goes and visits Nick Cage at his new deal where he's teaching kids at a dirt race, whatever.
Mhm.
So like they took their sweet ass time to create this mystique, this legend of Memphis. So much so
Oh, yeah.
that two cops in a diner are like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's Memphis.
It's Memphis Reigns.
You'll never guess who just walked into
Yeah.
this diner.
First
so they-
name basis with LAPD beat cops.
And then Nick Cage's self-talk, dude. I'm gonna take notes because he like puts on the leather jacket. I forget what he says, but he's like,
I'm a bad
bad
man.
and the talk to the cars.
Yeah.
Like I loved everything about this, like this feel good Nick Cage. Just all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the self-talk, man. It's great.
Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah. His brother, so you'll notice he looks different. He looks clean cut and shaved.
Hang on. Yeah, go.
So in the last scene, it's a symbolic demonstrate like showing of he's grown up. He's realized like, man, my brother did something for me. He left to try to keep me on the straight and narrow. Like after,
Yeah. It's the visual representation
Yeah.
of Nick Cage's acting because he looks like an absolute garbage can the whole fucking movie, man. Like you see how
that's-
pale he is.
that is what I'm getting at.
No,
I
it's like
appreciate it.
overdone. Like, what the fuck is Giovanni? What is Kip thinking? What's this
He's got a
look?
terrible accent.
Hey,
by
I
the way.
got an idea for. Oh no, his voice, everything, the way he's talking, the way his beard looks, the way his skin looks, the outfits he's selecting to go case
Selected-
cars.
He didn't select.
You
them.
look like a goddamn robber. You look like a criminal.
Like he's from Long Beach. I
Wear
get
a
it.
collared shirt. Wear a collared shirt and sunglasses at night. That's better than looking like a
Criminals don't
robber.
Think that way.
But you got to know if you look like an absolute skis dirtbag. Like that. Here's the thing.
I
That
don't
whole
think
character almost ruined it for me, but was so bad it made it great. Which is on my list. Kip in his voice, in his look, his skin, how
accent.
greasy he is, his facial hair.
Oh, this movie.
That's what made it
big
great.
fan of the slick back. Everybody.
Oh yeah.
I got where I guessed this movie lost you. I got a long list
Okay.
actually.
Okay, because there's a lot.
And then the cars blowing up from when that guy from Lock Stock came to save Nick Cage from the fight,
Mhm.
and then every car in the parking lot blew up because he blew up one car. I don't think it works like that. Well, I don't never blown up cars, so I don't know.
So that's on the list.
Okay.
So I called that proximity explosions.
Proximity heat. Then the 6 a.m. and you said this aloud when they're like, where are they going? And the cops made just a big guess and put all their chips in on one place that the guys would be. And you said, yeah, 6 a.m. LA to Long Beach. Yeah, bullshit. Aloud.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, all right, well, that lost him. And then the car launch, and you and I just looked at each other like, whoa. And this set up the whole Fast and Furious franchise. That
Yeah.
one leap
So,
of
like,
faith.
If they can launch off a fucking tote, we're going to be dragging a safe through Brazil and soon. Watch us. The final answer,
Of where this movie launched.
yes, is like, I'm fucking done with it, is when he gets the results back from the forensics on the glass shards found at the warehouse
They're black light.
that they're black lights. Hang on. And he's like, when they're going to Long Beach. And he doesn't tell them until they get to Long Beach. Like, granted, the ride should be 90 minutes to 2 hours, but it took 6 minutes, which is fine. But they like show up and then they discuss why the fuck they're there. Like, you don't think, what are you talking about on the car ride?
Oh, good question.
Are you just gonna, hey, we're going to the fucking warehouse because these black light glass shards, I'm pretty sure if we bring black lights, we're gonna be able to see something on the wall. But then you like cut to the scene where they show up, none the wiser. He's like, oh, black light.
What we're gonna have to ask Callie about this one, but I think that's how cops talk to each other.
But
as if they're on TV.
But they're not talking on the ride there, like on what the mission is. If you don't think that lowrider scene made this movie great, I don't fucking know who you are.
I have no
so
idea.
Tex, let's go and let's talk something here real quick.
Okay.
What had you drawn in the most, and then what pushed you away the most? The peak and the valley.
Coach from the Titans visiting Nick Cage.
Okay. What about like the valley?
The final car chase jump. And then the fight with the bad guy.
Yeah, I'd say
in the factory.
I'd say fight with the bad guy. It's close. And you know what? I just realized where it legitimately lost me is when fucking Kip Raines gets in that fucking claw machine and has the ability to swing the claw so accurately within 2 feet of his brother to knock off 2 guys. Nah, I'm not buying it. That's legitimately where it lost me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going before that.
And it was pretty close when
looking at
when we were talking about the wrecking ball as well.
Oh yeah,
smashing that dude, and he just doesn't have a scratch on him.
Oh yeah,
get the fuck out of here.
That was also at one point. It was also in the preview,
mm-hmm.
and during the preview, we're like, oh shit. And then when we see it real time, we're like, he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's another question we should probably add to this list. How many people died in this movie that they don't acknowledge?
A dozen or so.
Yeah, but yeah, he's dead.
All right, so peak for me is the drop off, the initially getting in, like Memphis Reigns getting dropped off to go boost Eleanor. Just that exchange between him and his bird, right? He gets
this when they took the photo.
No, before the final chase.
Okay,
and he pulls out, right, and then he it's kind of like this, like we've done it, reprieve. He thinks everything's going well. He turns and he goes, "We're going the easy way or the hard way, easy way or the hard way." And then it's just like hard way, and he like fucking hits it and pulls the U-turn and goes like that. That fucking whole sequence is great.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good one. Oh man,
Valley, the whole fucking ending.
After that moment,
after
you fell off the peak?
Even after they like get away, which is, don't even get me started on like the logistics of letting Memphis Reigns go from the guy who's been chasing him his whole life. I'm talking the barbecue scene.
Oh, okay.
Which is
badass grill, by the way.
It's a legit grill, but the whole thing is just, I don't know how you do it any better. I think you see a better version of it in the Fast and the Furious, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe they did.
Like they closed it out the exact same fucking way. Get the fuck out of here. You know?
It is awfully close. But I mean, Mission Impossible did it earlier than this, but it's just, we're going to go to a bar and what next? I don't know, man. I'm going to go here. You're going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this was.
I don't think so. It was a come together moment.
I think you can't still steal cars. Lindo gave you 1.
Mm-hmm.
You think Lindo gives them 2? Well, why didn't they make a sequel?
TB, it's probably still fucking
20 years
so
later.
You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, Angelina Jolie's son with Nick Cage.
Mm-hmm. Now we're talking.
So we got Memphis and Sway. What the hell are they going to name their kid?
Fucking Turnbuckle. I don't fucking know.
Do this. We got it late at the end with the coach
mm-hmm.
From Remember the Titans, but
why don't we just get his character's name so you can stop saying that?
I like this better. Just any movie where you're going to collect members for your team, like just big fan of that whole style of scene and collecting your crew. Love it. So they did a great job because they didn't rush it. Again, it was like 20 minutes to collect their whole crew.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the youngsters come in. So like Armageddon, and it's the same producer. So Armageddon, the same thing. Like you get the backstories on these guys and their connections, their relationships, and then they're coming together on a team. Like
Mhm.
any movie that does that,
You're
I'm
in. So you're in on Gone in 60 is what you're saying.
for until I'm out.
And then they draw you back in. I thought it was shot pretty well too. A lot of like upward angles. Did you notice that? Like looking up at dudes.
I suppose. A
Mhm.
lot of zoom in, dramatic zoom.
Yeah.
On faces, but yeah, I'll tell you, Nick Cage's best acting was after the moment they lost me. He almost sucked me back in by his ability to sell that he actually just leapt, I don't know, 30 cars off of that ramp and then landed and kept on driving like the Dukes of Hazzard. And his reaction, like, oh shit, I actually did that.
Yeah. And then like the very next scene follows it up with just pure fucking ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Or
This is where I need the LA map, because apparently whatever bridge that was led right into a tunnel underneath the airport. And then he lost the helicopter.
Yeah, I think that tunnel goes to the airport. Yeah, but then it went to some
But then he's out
bridge,
of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And then I don't
on
know.
a bridge with a toll. And then also he's in Long Beach, and then he was 1 or 2 minutes late at the harbor, but then he was 12 minutes late at Calitri's junkyard. Yeah, like trust me. Let me just tell you, you can't even get through the In-N-Out drive-through in 12 fucking minutes, man. Like it's so their accuracy is so far off. It's just the outlier. Like you have to dismiss that data point. It's so fucking far off on that.
Yeah.
You just got to dismiss it.
I guess.
Okay, so we're saying that the movie beat the trailer.
100%.
Right.
But the movie also is not good.
Yeah, the movie is great, simultaneously great and bad, which is like, man, I think that in itself is a hard thing to do. But if you're a writer and a director who are like, hey, we're going to make a movie that's awful, but at the same time great, your first casting call is Nick Cage. Like that's what he does.
Well, yeah, he was in The Rock. Same producers as. Fuck, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But again, when's the last time you seen The Rock?
Within a year.
Oh, okay.
But when's the last time I seen The Rock the preview to that movie? Never.
Oh, okay. I guess that's the whole point of this, is to watch movies we really like and then realize, oh god, this is not good.
But what if it's, and also just check the trailers, because what we're gonna see, and because man, what drives this is movie previews now are awesome.
Well,
they've turned into music videos.
They are also readily available on YouTube.
Yeah.
What was the movie preview for Gone in 60 Seconds? Oh, I was watching another movie.
Yeah.
And holy shit. Mm-hmm. So the movie preview, it's got to stand out so much that I remember it after watching 2 hours of another movie.
Right. I don't know if it did it. I'm curious.
I do not know if it did it.
We got to do some research next time to see when it previewed and what movies it previewed on.
But at this point in life, I was going for like actors. What was Nick Cage before? It was Face Off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm going to go watch Face Off.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Cage. I'm going to go watch Nick Cage, not Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah, but there also wasn't, I feel like he just didn't have much else to fucking do.
Oh, no. I did not.
So like every Friday you just go to the theater or look in the fucking newspaper, right? Or call 444 film. And
no, you can do my dad's move. Let's just go to the theater.
Yeah, no,
we see what's playing next.
Yeah, we would do that for sure. Yeah, and you'd like, because everything would have kind of staggered show times. You'd be like, I don't want to fucking see whatever the fuck that movie is. I could probably do that one. It starts in 30 minutes. All right, let's do that one. Right?
Yeah, dick around in the arcade.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, how do we close this fucking thing out?
Well, I don't. We have a barbecue or go to a bar. Just like all great movies.
Yeah. I guess that's the inaugural episode. Inaugural episode of Trailer.
Just met her.
Ew. That was Gone in 60 Seconds. If you haven't seen it in a while, go watch it. If you haven't seen the preview, watch the preview first, then watch the movie, and you can see the huge glaring gap in what you're totally unprepared for. But maybe that's part of the allure. You bait them in and you leave like the good shit.
Well, actually, they gave you the last 30 minutes in the trailer.
No. Last 29 minutes.
Yeah. All right.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.